Now we are going to discuss about Max Weber, basic theory of Max Weber. He is from German scientist. Life and works of Max Weber, methodology and ideal type, Verstehen, theory of social action, authority, sociology of religion and economics, Protestant ethic and spirit of capitalism, rationality, rationalization, bureaucracy, class, status and party. These are the subject matter discussed by Max Weber, and we will discuss now conclusion. Max Weber 1864 to 1920, life and works of Max Weber. The German sociologist and political economist Max Weber was born in a well-to-do family and received excellent training in law and economics. Max Weber stands as one of the central figures of social science in general and sociological theory in particular. Max Weber was born in Erfurt, Germany on April 21st, 1864 in a middle-class Protestant family. His father was a well-known politician who played a minor role in his upbringing. Weber's mother had major contribution throughout his life. At the age of 18, he left home for a short time to attend the University of Heidelberg. He left Heidelberg for military service, and in 1884 he returned to Berlin and to his parents' home to take courses at the University of Berlin. At the University of Berlin, he obtained a university degree in law and eventually a doctorate in political economy. In 1894, Weber joined Freiburg University as a professor of political economy. In 1897, he joined Heidelberg University as the professor of economics only at the age of 32. Wow! He was considered very young to obtain a professorship at a major German university. However, his severe personal crisis in the following year forced Weber to suspend his teaching activities and eventually resign his position at Heidelberg. But in 1897, his father died. Shortly thereafter, a serious nervous breakdown occurred in his life, from which he never fully recovered. After his honorary professor in Heidelberg recovery, he became an honorary professor in Heidelberg University in 1903. That Weber was able to begin to return to active academic life. Thereafter, he began to return to regular intellectual work in 1904. In 1904 and 1905, he published one of his best-known works, The Protestant Ethic and Spirit of Capitalism, was based on the relationship between capitalism and religion. By 1909, Weber began writing Economy and Society, his most ambitious theoretical and historical work. From 1916 to 17, he carried out research on the history of world religions, China, India, and ancient Judaism. His last academic work was a series of lectures that he gave at the University of Freiburg in 1990 into 20, entitled General Economic History, that was based on history of capitalist development. In addition to the major writing produced in this period, Weber undertook a number of other activities. He helped found the German Sociological Society in 1910. His home became a center for a wide range of intellectuals, including sociologists such as George Simmel, Robert Michel, and George Lucas. Weber was also active in politics and wrote essays on the issue of the day Weber died in June 1920. Weber's intellectual works are considered to be the best for their historical explanation of modern Western societies and their economic, political, legal, religious development. Weber's major contribution in the field of social sciences are methodological orientation, analysis of social class, theory of legitimacy and religion, and so on. In addition, he focused on the issues of the rise of modern society, the formation of bureaucracy, the development of modern political state, and comparative world economics. In fact, Weber was a modernist and individualistic in his approach. He brought together various traditions of social thought and formed a unique theoretical perspective based on history, economics, philosophy, law, and comparative historical analysis. Weber in reality was influenced by Marxist school of economics and opposed on several fronts, and this led him to formulate a completely different view of the role played by history and economy in social development. Methodology. Now we will come to know, we would like to know about the methodology of Max Weber, that is based on ideal type and Verstehen. One of the most important concepts given by Weber to sociology is the concept of ideal type. The concept occupies a very important place in his methodology. In methodology, it is known as typological analysis. Ideal types are concerned with categorizing, process enabling the scientist to contrast actual types with their common ideals, whereas the former types were limited to historical circumstances. The ideal type was, explained Larson's, an attempt to deal with the problem of the historical relativity of conceptual types by means of the construction of a limited number of terms which could be used as constant generalizable abstraction. According to Weber, sociology is concerned with social action and social behavior. Every social action has an ideal. The ideal type of social action is in our mind. For example, we say that a particular man is materialistic. The term materialistic is an idea. And how can we call a man materialistic? How can we apply an idea to a concrete man? It is only because we have conception about the meaning of the term materialist, and the conception is an idea of the ideal type. It is because of these theoretical or rational concepts that we are able to judge a man as a materialist, idealist, or pragmatist. This proves that every man has in him certain ideas about perfect social action or behavior, and this ideal type is subjective. That is, it is in the mind of man. By the ideal type, the sociologist is able to measure the gap between the ideal type, objectively possible action, and the empirical action, and ascertain the part played by rationality and chance or by the intrusion of accidental, emotional, and other elements. The concept of ideal type explains organic approach to sociology. As Weber pointed out, organic sociology attempts to understand social interaction by using as a point of departure the whole within which the individual acts. His action and behavior are then interpreted somewhat in the way that a physiologist would treat the role of an organ of body in the economy of the organism, that is, from the point of view of the survival of the latter. This functional frame of reference is convenient for purposes of practical illustration and for provisional orientation. In these respects, it is not only useful but indispensable, but at the same time time, if its cognitive value is overestimated and its concept illegitimately refined, it can be highly dangerous in certain circumstances. This is the only available way of determining just what process of social action it is important to understand in order to explain a given phenomena. But this is only the beginning of sociological analysis. So we can understand the characteristics of ideal type. The above discussion of the concept of ideal type point out the following three characteristics. Ideal types are subjective. The ideal types are subjective in character. The subjective nature of these types marks them off from the physical laws. The physical event or processes are objective, whereas social law cannot be objective because these social laws pertain to human action and behavior, and human behavior is characterized by subjective motive, intention and goal. Man is a creature of free will and his actions are not quite predictable on the basis of cases law. Weber wanted to make sociology fully objective, but full objective is not possible in human affairs because man action are not determined in the manner of physical events. However, with the help of the concept like ideal type, it should be possible to achieve a great deal of objectivity. Ideal type are emotional. The ideal type are emotive motives in content. They pertain to our affections and reside in our imagination. The ideal types are not concrete but abstract in nature. Even the physical law like law of gravitation and motion are also abstract, very much like ideal types. In this aspect, as concepts like economic, religious, man are also abstract, and no existing man fully answers to these concepts. The ideal types are changeable. According to Max Weber, the ideal type are purely human construction and therefore subject to the consideration of time and place. These are affected by current thinking and social atmosphere. Naturally, therefore, the ideal type are changeable. They cannot be eternal or permanent. In this respect, they are altogether unlike Plato, unlike ideal which are a standard form and extra human, that is, they are conserved by human reason and not fabricated by it. On the other hand, Max Weber's conception of ideal type is that these are changeable and non-eternal kinds of ideas. According to level of abstraction, Weber developed the kinds of ideal type historical particulars which refer to a specific historical realities such as Western protest ethic and modern capitalism. This ideal type which refers to historical and cultural context, reality that are observable in a variety of historical and cultural context such as bureaucracy, feudalism. Ideal type that constitutes rationalizing reconstruction of a particular kind of behavior. All proposition in an economic may be said to fall in this category since they are merely ideal typical construction of the ways men would behave if they were pure economic subject. Explaining the nature of Weber's concept of ideal type, Francis Abraham and Henry Morgan have written, the ideal type concept grew out of a creative convenience of two of Weber's other key, contrary to what German metaphysician would have liked it to be a purely classificatory concept rather than an ideal classification, for the former concept reached by abstraction. Martindale's view, an ideal type is simply a mental construct of theoretical conceivable and the empirical probable. Martindale assumes that a scientific theory is a logical interrelated body of empirical law. It is the ideal type of theory. It is said that the ideal type has character of theoretical mode. There are three general kinds of systematic procedure of instituting a proof: experimental method, and a statistical method, and comparative method. The logic of method is the same in all three methods. This subject distinction arises in terms of the degree of precision of the theory and the amount and kind of control possible over the data to which a theory is addressed. The oldest procedure of science is comparison. Comparison is an act intended to establish an item of empirical knowledge about which one is uncertain. Ideal type are not stereotype, average or abstract concept. Thinkers who have made basic use of concept of social action for the analysis of social life have been not only more sympathetic to the use of ideal type but have consistently consciously attempted to improve them. And to quote Martindale, an ideal type is formed by the one-sided accentuation of one or more point of view and by the synthesis of a great many diffused, discrete individual phenomena which are arranged according to these one-sided emphasized viewpoint into a unified analytical construct. In its conceptual purity, this mental construct cannot be found anywhere in reality. Now we will discuss about Verstehen. Verstehen is the key concept of approach of Weber's methodology. Verstehen is a German word which means understanding. The Verstehen thesis is based on the idea that meaning precedes action. In fact, we cannot act unless we knew the meaning of other act. This meaning, Weber thought, constitute a positive basis to make distinction between the nature and social science. Weber used the term in the context of a theory of social action. Weber believed that sociologists had an advantage over natural scientists. In the natural sciences, we can only observe uniformities and deduce generalization about the natural world and the other state of things. By contrast, the social sciences are subjectifying in that they concern themselves with the inner state of actors who act on their understanding, that is Verstehen, of the acts of others and on their interpretation of social environment. Therefore, the advantage raised in the sociologist ability to understand social phenomena. In this context, Dilthey's philosophical perspective is very much related to Weber's method. Koser stated Dilthey opposed positivism by constructing the outline of an approach to the data of human culture and human history, which though meant to be scientific was wholly at a variance with the approach of the natural science. Knowledge of the world of man, Dilthey claimed, could only be attained through an internal process, through experience and understanding, rather than through merely external knowledge. So, subjectivity is important here. Subjective knowledge. Subjective means person's thought. The natural sciences can do more than explain observed event by relating them to natural law. In the humanistic disciplines, knowledge is not external but internal. Men are intelligible to us in their uniqueness and individuality. Through this passage, we can say that Weber's methodological concept, Verstehen, is based on the real experience of the individual in a social situation. Hence, Weberian approach is very much related to the fact that natural scientists understand the natural phenomena from outside the situation, while social scientists understand the social phenomena through participation in the situation. Now we will discuss about theory of social action. Weber's theory of social action is very popular. This is the central subject of his all theories. Weber's theory of social action is related to methodological approach. Weber first developed the theory of social action in economy and society, which he wrote between 1911 and 1920. The theory of social action proposed by Weber eventually embraced the questions of meaningful social action, an attempt to incorporate the relevance of value in a theory of human action. In fact, Weber's theory of action is the product of method and treat. Means Weber's theory of social action is Weber said interpretative understanding of social action means Weber emphasized subjective meaning of any social action of actor. Means Weber always emphasized why an actor is acting. What is the subjective meaning of that action? In the background of his theory, Weber made two fundamental points. First, that sociology must concern itself with interpretation of social action. And second, that it must devise a social theory of values. Means action, interpretation and values both are added. Weber's theory of social action may be defined as that body of social theory devised by him in order to make valid judgment about the inner state of actor in their action. By inner state, Weber was referring to the capacity of the actor to choose between the means and ends of action and to exercise rational choice. Weber's theory of social action involves four central concepts, meaning of social action. The concept of social action is the central of all social ideas of Max Weber. According to him, all social concepts hinge upon the central conception of social action. Defining social action, Max Weber observes that the social action is that action of an individual which is somehow influenced by the action and behavior of other person, and by which it is modified or its direction determined. Thus it is clear that by the term social action we mean the actions of individual which are somehow influenced, guided or determined by the action of other individual. Pointing out the importance of the sociologist's ability to grasp the subjective quality of human, Weber wrote a correct causal interpretation of concrete course of action is arrived at when the overt action and the motives have both been correctly apprehended, and at the same time their relation has become meaningfully comprehensible. Now we will see characteristics of social action. Max Weber has made a very subtle analysis of concept of social action. The significant characteristics of social actions are influenced by, there are four main characteristics. Influenced by action of past, present and future. Means it should be by now quite obvious to the reader that a social action is a result for modification of some action or other person or persons. But it need to be made clear here that the modifying action need not necessarily be contemporaneous with the modified action. That it may not be occurring at the same time or just before in order to influence the action of an individual. Indeed, such an action may be a post-occurrence or even an expected action in the future. Now, the presupposes the existence of other individual and some action by him. As we have remarked earlier, a social action is a result of some action by some individual whose action in turn results in an action by some other individual. Necessity of subjective meaning. In a social act, it is necessary that it should have subjective meaning to the doer of a particular social action. If two persons collide accidentally and without any motive whatsoever, the collision will not be a social action. On the other hand, if a notorious smuggler causes a collision of a truck with a police jeep resulting in injuries or death, then such a collision would be a case of social action. What is social action? Action. Explaining the what Weber means by social action, Raymond Aron wrote, what is social action? Action, Weber tells us, is a form of human conduct. The German word is Verstehen, means understanding, consisting of an internal or external attitude which is expressed by acting or refraining from action. It is action when man assigns a certain meaning to his conduct, and the action is social. When by the meaning he gives it, it relates to the behavior of other persons and is oriented toward their behavior. And again, social action take the form of social interaction. When given several actors, the meaning of the action of each is related to the attitude of others. The actions are reciprocally oriented towards one another. Sociology, explaining Weber's concept of sociology, Raymond Aron has written, what is sociology? According to Max Weber, sociology is the science of social action. It seeks to comprehend social action by interpretative understanding. At the same time, it seeks to explain the course of this action in social terms. There are three key: deuten, to interpret; verstehen, and explain casually. Classification of social action. Now, Max Weber has been classified social action into four types. Weber classifies social action according to mode of orientation. Typically, any scientist should start with observable data and then proceed on to higher and higher level of abstraction. So too, sociology, according to Weber, in tune with the other science, studies basically social action. For social action, there must be a minimum of mutual orientation. That is to say, taking the simplest kind of interaction, the alter ego situation. The alter behavior must be influenced by and oriented to the ego and vice versa. Now, Weber classifies social action into four types: zoic rational, what rational, effectual action, and traditional action. Zoic rational, actually it is rational action. What rational action? Actually it is what rational is, in which act is gone by values, value oriented action. And effectual action means emotional action. And traditional action is based on tradition. Zoic rational action is completely purely rational action. It means that the actor who is fully conscious of his end select the appropriate means toward the attainment of his goal. Economic behavior is purely finite in the sense that producer chooses the most cheap, efficient can mean the production of goods. That is rational action. What rational action? The second kind is what rational action, in which the act is gone by values. Value is in central, means it is value action. Actor is doing action on the basis of value. Here logically refer more the means than the end, because the ends may or may not be truth. Religious behavior, in which people engage in number of activities for the achievement of certain thing, is typically an example of kind of social action. And effectual action, the third kind of action is effectual, in which sentiment, emotion and certain other states of mind play an important heart, the effectual relationship of member within a family is an example. Emotional relationship. The mother does not love her children because she finds it painful to do so, but purely because she cannot help loving her children. Here the role of sentiments and affection is the base of action. The kinship bond of the member of the group cannot be ignored under any condition of study. And traditional action, it is fourth kind of social action. This action is performed merely because it has always been done. All customs, folkways and more belong to this category. A particular way of dressing, for instance, is followed because that is what people before have been following. Observance of several rites and performance of ceremonies are matter more of customs than rationality. So this is mainly Weber classified four types of action, that is rational action, value-oriented action, and emotional action and traditional action. Thank you. Now we will discuss about authority. According to Weber, authority is related to power. Indeed, legitimate power is authority, and authority is nothing but legitimate power. Means without power you could not understand or define authority, and when you add legitimation in power, that become authority. Therefore, the various forms of legitimate power will be the various forms of authority. According to Weber, authority determines the social action and the social organization. Weber recognized three kinds of authority. You know, Weber mentioned four kinds of social action, but three kinds of authority. First one is traditional authority, that is based on tradition. Traditional authority rests on the belief in sacredness and sacredness of the social order and its prerogative based on tradition. The purest type of this authority is represented by patriarchal authority. Within it, the various strata of individuals are bound by communal relationship. The man in command is ruling over obedient, regarded as the lord who exercises this control and power over obedient subject. And Weber mentioned that tradition, privilege, feudal or patrimonial bond of allegiance, status, honor and goodwill regulate the web of interrelations within the structure of traditional authority and patriarchal ruler of the family, father and chief, etc. represent but the purest type of traditional roles, the coexistence of the strictly traditional bond and the free sphere of conduct is a common feature of all traditionalistic form of authority. Weber writes that in comparison to traditional patriarchalism, all state rule based upon more or less stable appropriation of administrative power. In this traditional authority, we respect father in patriarchal society. That is the traditional authority. We respect Brahmin in traditional Indian society. That is traditional authority. In charismatic authority rests on the effectual and personal devotion of the follower to the Lord and his gift of grace, known as charisma. It comprises especially magical ability, a special ability of that person, a special character of that person makes them popular and gives their social power. The eternally new, the non-routine, the unheard of, an emotional rapture from it, or sources of personal devotion. The purest type are the rule of the prophet, the warrior, hero, and the demagogue. The person in command is typically the leader who is obeyed by the disciple. Obedience is given exclusively to the leader as a person for the sake of his extraordinary qualities and not because of enacted position or traditional dignity. This is because of a special quality. Therefore, obedience is forthcoming only so long as people ascribe these qualities to him, that is, so long as his charisma is proven by evidence. The administrative staff of charismatic authority is selected according to charisma and personal devotion. Selection does not consider a special qualification as in the case of civil servant, nor domestic or other form of personal dependency. Throughout the ages, charismatic authority exercised by certain saints, prophets, warriors, heroes, philosophers, orators, scientists, politicians, and rulers have held over men. The demagogues have also exercised sufficient influence on the masses by virtue of their charismatic power. Weber used the term charisma in a completely value-neutral sense. He explained that the charismatic person has to prove that he has been sent by the grace of God by performing miracle and being successful in scoring the good living for his follower or subject, as was done by Moses of biblical fame, the great lawgiver of Jews. Charismatic rule represents a specifically extraordinary and purely personal relationship. Weber writes that, however, in case of continued existence, when the personal representative of charisma is eliminated, the charisma structure has the tendency to reutilize. This is known as reutilization of charisma. The process through which it happens is like traditionalization of orders. The charismatic staff of disciples or followers changes into a legal or a state-like staff by taking over internal prerogative or those appropriated by privilege. The meaning of charisma itself may undergo a change decisive in this. This is the way in which the problem of successorship is solved, which is a burning question for ideological and naked human material interest. Often an active search is made for successor. The process of this search for the slow Dalai Lama in Tibet is an example for it. So now we are going to talk about rational legal authority. Rational legal authority rests on all enactment sanction. Its pure type is best represented by bureaucracy. It is rational, scientific. The basic idea is that laws can be enacted and changed at pleasure by formal procedure to governing body which enact such laws or rule is either collected or appointed and constitute what are known as rational organization. The person in authority to obey a rule when adding an order. These rules as regulation represent abstract norm. The person in command is held to be superior legally. His right to govern is legitimized by enactment enforced by the state. Means suppose a judge, a principal, a police officer have rational authority. Weber point out the typical official is trained specialist whose term of employment are contractual. He is given a fixed salary scaled by rank of office, not by amount of work done by him. He has the right to a pension according to fixed rules of advancement. His administration represents vocational work by virtue of impersonal duty of office. And it should be noted that the crucial difference between charismatic authority and both of the other two types of authority is that the former is head unstable. This is because the source of carrier of charismatic Therefore, it continues so long as it succeeds one. Cure of such authority incans the loss of its legitimacy. A way out of this nation, says Weber, is the reutilization of charisma, by which the means transformation of charismatic authority as far as possible into the other two types of authority by the process of reutilization to maintain its continuity. So, in conclusion, we can understand authorities of three types, that is traditional authority, charismatic authority, and rational legal authority. Charismatic authority is a special capability or quality of a person which follower accept him and give authority, power sanctioned by society. And traditional authority is based on tradition, means the power of father and Brahmin. And legal authority is based on state provided the power. And now we will talk about sociology of religion. Max Weber book Protestant Ethic and Spirit of Capitalism developed his sociology of religion in his book. He did not accept economic determinism of Karl Marx. The economic factor, according to Weber, was an Abraham puts it, one variable relation with other affected by them, as in fact it in turn can affect them. Means Weber says economy is not only the factor will impact other subdivision of society. Weber said any factor can influence to other, means ideas or religion can influence to economy. Weber started investigation into religion due to his analysis of Protestant community. Noting that they were the chief captain of industry, he wanted to find out the relationship between Protestantism and capitalism. He also analyzed the relationship of religions of India, China and Middle East to capitalism. Weber was a profound scholar of scientific method and carefully avoided all single factor theories. Weber do not accept single factor theories. His methodological principle in sociology of religion are religion and economic phenomena are interrelated and interdependent. Each influence others. Any one-sided approach is unscientific, hence misleading. We must not be misled by such a particularistic fallacy. And Weber pointed about Weber noticed and criticized the Karl Marx one-dimensional approach. But methodologically it is possible for us to take any of these factors as a variable, and accordingly, obviously, Max Weber takes the religious factor as a variable in order to analyze the discover its specific effect on the economic and other social phenomena. He studies the ideal type after selecting the religious factors as variable. Max Weber takes the economic ethic of a religion to discourse the influence of religion on economic life. He does not include the various theological dogmas of religions under the term the economic ethic of religion, but by it he specifically means to the totality of the practical form of conduct as set forth by religion for its member to follow and maintain. He sees that there is a relation between economic ethic and religious belief, but also that many factors other than the religious one are involved in the creation of the effective form of conduct. Nevertheless, religious factor is all the more important. Weber, to prove his theory, select the economic ethic of the 6 famous religions of the world: Confucianism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, and analyzes the nature of economic ethic of each of them with its effects on the economic and social organization of the people following that religion. The best known part of his work is the study of the relation between certain form of Protestantism and capitalism. We shall in the following pages discuss only this part of his work. Religion and economics. Weber chose to take practical ethic of religion as the basis for the study of its influence upon economic system. In this context, he chose to study the practical ethic of Protestantism and its influence on the growth of capitalism. Weber studies Islam, Judaism. Weber taken economic ethics of Islam, Judaism and Confucianism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam. Buddhism, Islam and Judaism are reference to the economic and social organization of people following these religions. However, his most famous work is the detailed discussion of the religion between the economic ethic of Protestantism and the development of capitalism. Weber concludes Here Weber concluded that there is a close relationship between social organization and religious ideas. These relationships may be found in their forms. First, social groups with particular economic interest often show themselves to be more receptive to some form of nature, worship and dignity. Second, religious ideas to them to others. For aristocrats, toward religious ideas compatible with their sense of status and dignity. Religious ideas lead to the formation of certain groups such as monastic order, guild of magicians or clergy, and these groups may develop quite extensive economic activities. Third, the distinction between the elite and the masses is pertinent to the religious sphere as to other. The gap between the elite and the masses poses a problem with which each of great world religion has had to cope. Tenets of Sociology of Religion. Weber means principle or tenets in Sociology of Religion is religion and economic phenomena are interdependent. Neither religion nor economic factor alone can adequately describe the social life. It is, however, possible to study the social life by considering other religion or economic system as variable. Protestantism and capitalism. Weber's work, The Protestant Ethic and Spirit of Capitalism, was based upon the two general observations. Great material achievement have resulted from the work of monastic order, and specifically ascetic Protestant sect were noted for their economic success. Therefore, Weber projected a hypothesis. There appeared to be a paradoxically positive relationship between ascetic religious belief and economic enterprise. In his inquiry about the first ideal type, Weber identified the following values which were in harmony with the spirit of capitalism. Shift from ritualistic and otherworldly orientation to down-to-earth pragmatism. Due to this attitude, Protestantism favored development of sciences and rational investigation. Change attitude toward work. According to Protestantism, work is virtue. It contributes to the glory of God, therefore work is encouraged. Concept of calling. Protestantism asks men to seek gainful enterprises and accumulate wealth. According to this view, the elected individual must succeed in life. Therefore, in order to be marked for salvation, every man must select a calling, a vocation, work hard in and be successful. New attitude toward the collection of interest on loan. Catholicism was against collection of interest on loan. However, in 1545, Calvinism sanctioned collection of interest on loan. This encouraged establishment of lending houses, new investment and new floating capital. Stricture and alcoholism. Strictures. Protestant stricts on alcoholism had prohibition. Movement encouraging business activities and realism. Encouragement of literacy and learning. This resulted in significant breakthrough in education. It led to mass education and encouraged development of a specialized skill. Rejection of holidays. Since work contributes to the glory of God, Protestantism rejected most of the holidays. This resulted in more man hours and maximum utilization of capital. Asceticism is Protestant ethic asks people to accumulate capital but not use it for enjoyment. This encouraged capital accumulation. From his study of Protestantism and its relation to capitalism, Weber turned to a study of the relationship of capital into other religions of the world in order to prove how religion contributes to an economic system. Max Weber analyzed Hindu religion. Capitalism could not flourish in India because Hindu morally has disregard for this world. Hinduism considered world to be an illusory phenomenon. Moreover, casteism is also a hindrance to the growth of capitalism. Thus, we find the importance of religion in the determination of an economic system. In China also capitalism did not flourish because the religious atmosphere of China was not conducive to the development of capitalism. Thus, Chinese religion emphasized the quiet life and did not encourage materialist prosperity. But in criticism, it is not good. China gained more and more capitalism, and China grow more and more. Many people are coming from other than Protestantism. They are capitalist. Now, rationality and rationalization. Weber's concept of rationality and rationalization are central to his theoretical, conceptual and methodological writing. He used these concepts with reference to Protestantism, capitalism, bureaucracy, social action and ideal type construction. He also discusses the notion of rationality in sociological investigation and value-free sociology. This rationality refers to those ideas and behavior which are logically coherent and consistent and amenable to empirical knowledge. Rationalization refers to the process whereby rationality is applied to various aspects and activities of life. The conviction that rationality is the distinctive characteristics of human being has made it a central theme in Western philosophy for over 200. According to Weber, the modern Western world is characterized by rationality. Rationality and the process of rationalization are very much related to rational action. Weber thought that all spheres of society, the economical, political and legal spheres in modern world underwent the process of rationalization. To Weber, rationalization means that principally there are no mysterious, calculable forces that come into play, but rather one can in principle master all things by calculation. One need no longer have resources to magical means in order to master or implore the spirits and did the savage for whom such mysterious power existed. Rationalization depends upon two types of activities: strategies of social action and adjustment of the means and ends of the action in attainment of goal. Weber made distinction between the concept of rationality and the process of rationalization. Weber referred the various ways to understand rationality in terms of economical rationality, instrumental rationality, value rationality, formal and substantial rationality. On the other hand, Weber discussed different forms of rationality and categorize thereon four broad types: formal substantive rationality, practical rationality, and theoretical rationality. In this context, rationalization refers to the overall historic processes by which reality is increasingly mastered by calculation, scientific knowledge, and rational action. Rationality, by contrast, is term Weber used to refer to the capacity of social action to be subject to calculation in the means and in the end of action. Weber argues that action in modern society is based on the orientation of the actor and the social situation of action. For example, scientists, lawyer, administrator, and policy maker may have different form of rationality. Weber discussed four types of rationality in his works: formal rationality, substantive rationality, practical, and theoretical rationality. Formal, the first and most important type of rationality according to Weber, is formal rationality. It involves means-end calculation. Weber used this term to designate the amount of quantitative calculation and accounting procedure that goes into an action or decision. This whole process of rationalization in the factory as elsewhere, and especially in the bureaucratic stage machine. Substantive rationality is second form of rationality, directly order action into pattern through cluster of values. It related with values. Weber used this term to refer to the degree to which action is shaped by an orientation to the value regardless of the nature of the end of the outcome of action. And now, practical rationality. A third form of rationality discussed by Weber is practical rationality. Eqbal defined practical rationality as every way of life that views and judges worldly activity in relation to the individual's purely pragmatic and egoistic interest. People who practice practical rationality accept given reality. Theoretical rationality. The last or fourth type of rationality according to Weber is theoretical rational. Theoretical rationality effort to master reality through increasingly abstract concept rather than through action. In fact, theoretical rationality imposes on reality by conceptual reasoning in terms of induction, deduction, and so on. Theoretical rationality acts by producing an image of the world by means of abstract concepts and conceptualization. These are, in addition to differentiating among four types of rationality, Eqbal also deals with it from the perspective of methodical ways of life. Practical rationality lacks this ability because it involves reaction to situation rather than effort to order them. Theoretical rationality is cognitive and therefore has a high limited ability to suppress practical rationality and seem to be more of an end product than producer. To Weber, substantive rationality is the only type with the potential to introduce methodical ways of life. Finally, subjugation of practical rationality lead to development of formal rationality due to enormous emphasis on a methodical ways of life. Now we talk in brief bureaucracy. Max Weber has discussed in detail the concept of bureaucracy. He has discussed this concept in the context of social power and prestige. Indeed, bureaucracy is an administrative organization in which the distribution and classification of power is of a particular kind, bureaucratization. Bureaucratization is the result of the emergence of rational on a large scale. As Weber puts it, once it is fully established, bureaucracy is among these social structures which are the hardest to destroy. Bureaucracy is the means of carrying community action over into rationally ordered social action. Therefore, as an instrument for societalizing relation of power, bureaucracy has been and is a power instrument of the first order for the one who controls the bureaucratic apparatus. Functional feature of bureaucracy. Max Weber has enumerated characteristics of bureaucracy: hierarchy of positions, impersonal rules, clear and specific functions, rule of control, separation between administrators and owners, lack of monopoly, written rule and decision and commands, expert training, technical competence, and full-time vocation. Selection. Bureaucratic appointments are made not by election but by selection based upon definite rule specified by contract. Pecuniary benefits. These are the most important characteristics of bureaucracy. Thank you. In conclusion, I would like to tell you that we have discussed about, we came to know about Auguste Comte methodology, positivism that is based on scientific method, and law of three stage, as well as we know the hierarchy of science and dynamic and static society, characteristics of society. And in Emile Durkheim, we study the methodology of Emile Durkheim, we study the social fact, we came to know division of labor, rules of sociological method, ideas about the religion that combine. Auguste Comte, Emile Durkheim mentioned about the social fact. Religion is social fact, society is social fact, division of labor is social fact. And we have discussed about Herbert Spencer, evolutionary process, and Herbert Spencer's theories. We have come to know about the historical materialism of Karl Marx, methodology of Karl Marx, dialectism. We came to know here that how class conflict occurs. And in Max Weber's view, we came to know about the methodology of Max Weber. We have come to know that what is social action, what types of social action, what is authority, how many types of authority in the view of Max Weber. And we come to know about the Protestant ethic and spirit of capitalism. We came to know about the bureaucracy. And I think we have finished all basic classical thinkers. Thank you, all the best.